Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. And today we're going to be tackling something that I think you guys have been sending us a lot of messages about, and that's all the stuff around learning English.
It's a big one.
It is a big one.
Yeah.
And, you guys have sent in some really fascinating stuff about the challenges that learners face. But what really caught my eye was this idea of how do we even talk about those challenges?
All right.
Effectively, it's like fluency in expressing the learning journey itself. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crucial. And, the source, you shared that whole podcast on this topic. I mean, they really hit the nail on the head when they say acknowledging challenges isn't complaining.
Right.
It's metacognition. It's about understanding your own learning process.
So it's less about whining and more about strategic thinking.
Exactly. Yeah, think of it this way. That feeling when you've been hitting the gym, working hard, but the scale just won't budge. That's a plateau.
Okay.
It happens in language learning too. And recognizing is the first step to breaking through. And that's where talking about it comes in. This whole deep dive is about giving you the tools to do that so you can seek help, effectively find community, and even stay motivated when things get tough.
I like it. Okay, I'm intrigued. And, the source uses the word resource a lot when talking about this.
They do.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's such a powerful concept.
It is.
Because, in language learning, we often think of resources as textbooks or apps.
Yeah, the usual suspects.
Right, but a resource is anything that helps you achieve your goal.
Right.
So it could be that grammar website that you just, can't live without.
Right.
Or, your language partner who patiently corrects your pronunciation.
Yeah.
Or even that quiet corner in the library where you just focus the best.
Absolutely, your little haven.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's about expanding our definition of what's helpful. Okay. Now, the podcast also dives into specific vocabulary for talking about challenges.
Yeah.
There are some real gems in there.
Yeah.
Words like plateau, which we just talked about.
Of course.
But also motivation.
Yes.
I feel like that one can be such a roller coaster for language learners.
Oh, absolutely. Motivation is like the fuel in your language learning car. You need it to keep moving forward.
Okay.
But just like different cars need different types of fuel. Your motivation might come from different sources. Maybe it's a sense of achievement. Maybe it's the desire to connect with others in their native language.
Right.
Or even the pure joy of learning something new.
Right.
Figuring out what fuels your engine is essential.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks.
And speaking of analogies, the podcast goes beyond single words and actually gives you phrases.
Yeah.
It's like a cheat sheet.
It is.
For real life conversation.
Yeah, they give you categories like describing challenges with phrases like, I struggle with understanding fast speakers, or grammar rules are really confusing for me. Things you can just use right away, and they're specific enough to actually get your point across.
Yeah, and they don't shy away from the negative stuff either. Expressing frustration is a whole category.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Things like, I feel stuck. Or it's discouraging. I mean, we all feel those things sometimes.
All the time, right.
So it's validating to hear them laid out like that.
Yeah.
But how do we express those frustrations without sounding, whiny?
That's a great question, and it's where communication strategy comes in. The source touches on this indirectly by emphasizing sharing progress and framing it positively instead of just dwelling on the negative, try to articulate what you have achieved.
Okay.
It not only makes you sound more confident and articulate,
Right.
but it can also genuinely boost your motivation.
I'm a bit skeptical about that, this whole sharing progress thing. Doesn't that sound a bit braggy?
It doesn't have to be. Think of it less like boasting and more like acknowledging the steps you've taken, no matter how small.
Yeah.
It can be as simple as, hey, I finally mastered the past tense, or I had a short conversation with my neighbor today and understood everything.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Sharing progress is almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Absolutely.
By acknowledging your wins, you reinforce your belief in your ability to learn.
Exactly. And the podcast goes even deeper by highlighting 3 common mistakes learners make when talking about their challenges.
Okay.
But I think we can reframe these mistakes as communication goals.
Okay. I like where this is going. Let's hear them.
All right. So the first one is, don't be too hard on yourself.
Right.
We can reframe this as express self-compassion.
Okay.
It's about acknowledging that learning a language is hard and it's okay to make mistakes.
Express self-compassion. I like that. It reminds me of something I read about how self-criticism can actually hinder our progress.
Right.
So instead of beating ourselves up over every mistake, We should be celebrating the effort and the small victories along the way.
Absolutely. And that leads us nicely to the second mistake, which is don't ignore progress.
Okay.
We can reframe this as articulate your wins.
Okay.
Remember that feeling I mentioned earlier about finally understanding a whole conversation without subtitles?
Oh, yeah.
Those are the moments worth celebrating and sharing.
Totally. I remember when I could finally order a coffee in Italian without fumbling over my words.
There you go.
It felt like such a huge accomplishment, and telling my friends about it just amplified the feeling.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be a big milestone. Even small wins like learning a new grammar rule or having a short conversation with a native speaker are worth acknowledging.
Right.
It reinforces those positive feelings and keeps you motivated to keep going.
So articulate your wins is almost like a motivation hack.
It can be, and it ties back to what we were discussing earlier about the sharing progress category in the source material.
Right.
It's not about bragging, it's about consciously recognizing your own efforts and achievements.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together now. What about the third mistake?
The third mistake is don't compare.
Right.
We can reframe this as frame your journey uniquely.
Okay.
Everyone learns at their own pace and has their own strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
Comparing yourself to others will only lead to discouragement and frustration.
This is so true. I used to get so envious of my friend who seemed to pick up languages effortlessly.
Oh, I know that feeling.
It made me feel like I was just bad at it. But then I realized we were taking different approaches and had different learning styles.
And that's the key. It's about understanding that your language learning journey is unique to you. Celebrate your own progress, learn from your own mistakes, and find what works best for you.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, from specific vocabulary to communication strategies and even reframing common mistakes as goals.
We have.
It's like we've equipped ourselves with a whole toolbox for talking about the challenges of learning English.
We have. And remember, being able to talk about your challenges effectively is just one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
The source also provides some great tips for actually overcoming those challenges.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, one of the things they emphasize is setting small goals.
Okay.
It's easy to get overwhelmed by the sheer vastness of learning a new language.
Oh, yeah.
But if you bring it down into manageable chunks, it suddenly feels less daunting.
That's a good point. Instead of focusing on becoming fluent overnight, maybe it's about mastering one grammar point this week or being able to order food at a restaurant next month.
Exactly. And they also talk about the importance of regular practice. It's like working out a muscle. Consistency is key to building strength and fluency.
This reminds me of that time I tried learning Spanish using an app.
Yeah.
I'd do a lesson every now and then whenever I remembered, but I never really made much progress. It wasn't until I committed to practicing every day, even if it was just for 15 minutes, that things started to click.
Consistency is key, and don't be afraid to mix things up.
Right.
The source talks about using multiple resources to keep things fresh and engaging.
Okay.
Don't just rely on textbooks, explore apps, podcasts, online communities, and real-life conversations.
It's like a buffet of language learning opportunities.
Exactly.
Speaking of keeping things interesting, one of the things that stood out to me was their suggestion about using analogies. They said something like, learning a language is like climbing a mountain. It's tough, but the view from the top is worth it.
I love that. Analogies can be such a powerful way to communicate your experience to others who might not fully understand the ups and downs of language learning.
Right.
And they can also be a motivating reminder for yourself.
Right. It's like a mental shortcut to understanding the process.
Right.
It's not just about memorizing vocabulary.
Right.
It's about challenging yourself, pushing your limits, and enjoying the journey.
And that's what makes this source so valuable. It goes beyond just talking about challenges. It provides practical tips for tackling them, encourages creative expression through analogies, and ultimately helps you embrace the entire language learning experience.
So we've gone from feeling lost and maybe a bit overwhelmed to having a toolkit of strategies for not only talking about challenges, but also overcoming them. That's pretty amazing.
It is. And speaking of journeys, this brings us to a final thought that I think is worth pondering. What metaphor would you use to describe your unique language learning experience right now?
Ooh, that's a good one. I need to think about that for a minute. What about you?
Well, for me, it feels a bit like navigating a dense forest.
A forest. That's an interesting one. I've never thought about it like that.
Yeah, at first it felt overwhelming with so many paths to choose from and that constant fear of getting lost.
Right.
But as I've progressed, I've started to recognize landmarks, develop a sense of direction, and even find moments of unexpected beauty along the way.
I love that it speaks to the sense of adventure and discovery that comes with language learning. It's not always easy,
No.
but it's always rewarding.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of metaphors. They're personal and unique to your experience.
Hmm.
There's no right or wrong answer. It's about finding the image that resonates with you.
Yeah, maybe it's a winding road with unexpected twists and turns, or a jungle gym where you're constantly climbing and exploring new heights.
Or a roller coaster with those thrilling highs of understanding and those stomach-dropping lows of making mistakes.
Right.
What matters is that it helps you make sense of your own journey.
This is such a powerful exercise. It's like taking all the information we've gathered, the vocabulary, the communication strategies, and even the tips for overcoming challenges, and distilling them into one single evocative image.
And that image can be a source of motivation, a reminder of how far you've come, and a compass for navigating the path ahead.
So we're leaving you with this challenge. What metaphor captures your English language learning experience? What image comes to mind when you think about the obstacles you faced, the milestones you've reached, and the exciting possibilities that lie ahead?
Don't overthink it. Just let your intuition guide you what feels right, what captures the essence of your unique journey.
And once you've found your metaphor, we encourage you to share it. Tell a friend, post it on social media, or use it as a conversation starter with your fellow language learners.
Because remember, you're not alone on this journey. There's a whole community of language enthusiasts out there, each with their own unique story to tell. And by sharing those stories, we can learn from each other, support each other, and celebrate the incredible adventure that is language learning.
So keep exploring, keep practicing, and keep those metaphors coming.
Until next time, happy language learning. Navigating a dense forest.
A forest. That's an interesting one. I've never thought about it like that before.
Yeah, at first it felt so overwhelming, like there were so many paths to choose from.
Right.
And, that constant fear of getting lost.
Uh-huh.
But as I've progressed, I'm starting to recognize landmarks and develop a sense of direction and, even find moments of unexpected beauty along the way.
I love that it really speaks to the sense of adventure and discovery that comes with language learning.
Yeah.
It's not always easy.
No, it's not.
But it's always rewarding.
It is, and that's the beauty of metaphors, right?
Yeah.
They're so personal and unique to your own experience.
Right.
There's no right or wrong answer. It's just about finding that image that resonates with you.
Yeah. Maybe it's a winding road with unexpected twists and turns.
Sure.
Or a jungle gym where you're constantly climbing and exploring new heights.
Yeah, or a roller coaster, with those thrilling highs of understanding and those stomach-dropping lows of making mistakes.
Ooh, I like that one.
What matters is that it helps you make sense of your own journey.
This is such a powerful exercise. It's like taking all this information, we've gathered the vocabulary, the communication strategies, even the tips for overcoming challenges, and distilling them into one single evocative image.
And that image can be such a source of motivation. It can remind you how far you've come, and it can be a compass for navigating the path ahead.
So we're leaving all of you with this challenge. What metaphor captures your English language learning experience? What image comes to mind when you think about all the obstacles you've faced, the milestones you've reached, and all the exciting possibilities that lie ahead?
Don't overthink it. Just let your intuition guide you what feels right, what captures the essence of your own unique journey.
And once you have found your metaphor, we encourage you to share it, tell a friend, post it on social media, or use it as a conversation starter with your fellow language learners.
Because remember, you're not alone on this journey. There's a whole community of language enthusiasts out there, each with their own unique story to tell. And by sharing those stories, we can learn from each other, support each other, and celebrate the incredible adventure that is language learning.
So keep exploring, keep practicing, and keep those metaphors coming.
Until next time, happy language learning.
See you guys.